Hi, and thank you for watching this video. I would like to share a small story on an experience that I went through recently. So, we were conducting a training session for one of our clients who is based in town on a Saturday. And the session was to start at 8:30, and I remember getting into the building where they are located at 8:20 a.m. And as I went through the first level, through the ramp, I got to a second level that had a lot of free parkings there. And I was about to park into one of the parkings. Then I met an Askari who is a soldier, and the soldier asked me, "Which company are you going into?" And I told him the name of the company. Then he said, "For that, you'll park at G1." And I thought G1 was one of the parkings still on the same floor. And I asked him, "Where is G1?" He said, "This is level B, and the parking is based on the alphabet. So you'll go up the ramp until you get to level G. Then you'll park at G1." And I thought to myself, there are so many free parkings here. Why do I have to go all the way? But I decided to obey. And I went all the way until got to level F. Now, this is where things begin to get interesting. As soon as I got to F, I met the facilitator, the person that was facilitating the session. He had just parked and was getting into the lift. And I remember I said hi to him and I asked him if he had parked on that level, to which he responded and said yes. And then I thought, if we are going to the same training session with him and he's parked here, then I might as well just park on that same spot. So I decided, or just on that same floor. So I decided to reverse park into one of the parkings that was not so far from where he had parked. And just as I was reverse parking, I had a loud bang. I had a loud bang. And I got out of the car and I went to assess the damage. It was my car that had been hit. So my car had hit a ramp. Remember, there are so many different levels. So there's a ramp that had bent. So that particular parking, for a best parking experience, you had to park facing in front, because then there's a space in between the ramp and the bottom, the parking, where a car can fit in if it's parked facing the front. However, when you're parking from behind, when you reverse park, the rear part of the car will hit the ramp. So, and I remember the very first words that I spoke as soon as I saw the damage was, "I wish I had obeyed." It was around 8:25, so I took my things and I went into the session. When the session started, the facilitator gave the participants an exercise to do and asked them to do it in their groups and to reconvene back in 15 minutes. So I took the opportunity to go back downstairs and park into the right spot that I had been told. And I remember thinking to myself, I've already disobeyed the first time. Let me just go back and park in the right spot so the Askari doesn't have to come looking for me and tell me, "Why did you park in the right place?" And then now when I went down, things get interesting again. Um, the most interesting thing is, believe it or not, G1 was less than 50 meters from where I'd parked. And the other interesting thing was the G1 parking was a smooth sailing. So you just over the ramp and then you get into G1. And I thought, wow, if I had obeyed, this would have been so much easier. It would have been so much smoother, no hassles or challenges. Why am I sharing this story with you today? The story for me has taught me so many lessons. It's had so many lessons for me to unpack. Lessons on obedience, lessons on not looking at other people and following what they are doing, but sticking to your path. I'd like to share some of these lessons that I've learned with you. The Bible talks about obedience, and it gives us a story in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 13, from verse 8 to 14, the story of King Saul. King Saul was supposed to go into battle against the Philistines, but then he was waiting for Samuel, and Samuel was to come after 7 days, and Samuel delayed. So Saul decided to go ahead and offer these rams. And as a result, Samuel was displeased, God was displeased, and we hear the word of God in the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. It says, "To obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen is better than the fat of rams." I do not know what your experience is or what you're going through today, but I would like to encourage you to obey. What is God telling you to do? What is Is He telling you to wait? Is He telling you to follow the process? It could be in your career. Maybe you look at others and you can see other people who have taken shortcuts and they seem to have gotten ahead. Today, obey, stick to your path, follow the path that God has called you to take on. Eventually, it will yield much more fruit and it will also be much more peaceful than if you take shortcuts. Then the other thing is about looking at others and listening to the voice of people. One of the things that caused Saul to disobey and offer those rams is because he noticed that the people had begun to become scattered. And if you also listen to my story, you'll notice that the reason I decided to park there is because I saw that someone else had parked there. How many times do we look at others who seem to have gone ahead, how others who seem to have gotten what we wanted? And we decide, if they did this, I'm also going to do this. Yet that was not your path. Stick to your path. Follow what God has cut out for you, because God has a plan for each and every one of us. Today, the call is for obedience. There is a motivational speaker called Jim Rohn. He used to say, and I remember there's a quote I listened to when I was listening to one of his videos, where he says, human beings have to endure two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And he says, discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. Even when we get into the smooth and narrow, remember in my story, I went back and fixed and parked the car where I was supposed to park initially. But the dent is still there. The marks are still there. The consequences and the pains are still there, which would all have been avoided if I had initially obeyed. And that is the same thing. When you're not disciplined and we follow the right path, we then have the pain of regret. Another quote that I recently had says, the road to heaven often feels like hell, while the road to hell feels like heaven. So when you're going through a certain road and it's the right road, most of the times it will be hard. There'll be steps to follow, there'll be ramps to take. It will be a longer route, and maybe it would be easier to just take a shortcut. But today, my encouragement to you is to obey. When you obey, the result is peace, more yield, and more fruitfulness. And there is no regret when we obey. There are so many stories in the Bible of people who um, were told by God about something. Even Abraham, God told him, promised him a child, but he took a shortcut, and that shortcut resulted in other issues and other pain. So I would encourage you today, obey. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Thank you, and God bless you.